I absorbed the weight of the damp night as I slink deeper into the shadowed alleyway behind the convention center. The pulsing beat of electronic music still bleeds out from somewhere within those neon-lit walls. But here it feels a galaxy away, muffled and dreamlike beneath layers of grimy brick and smog-choked air. Heart hammering, I try to slow my ragged breaths. In. Out. In. Out. Breathe like a normal person. Pretend you belong here among the cosplayers staggering home drunk on cheap beer and The Last Jedi debates. Except, nothing feels normal anymore. Not since I saw her disappear right in front of me. That girl with the cascade of chestnut curls spilling out beneath an elaborate Victorian hat. All lace and satin and doom-soaked eyes that followed mine for just a split second too long before they vanished into thin air. It was like she was trying to tell me something, begging me to help her, even though it's probably already too late. I shake my head hard, as if I can physically dislodge the image from behind my eyelids. Stop being crazy. It was dark and crowded in there with all those costumes and masks. You probably just imagined it or didn't see straight because of the smack. I pitch forward onto the filthy concrete. My face scrapes hard against jagged asphalt that cuts unforgivingly into unprotected flesh. What the actual fuck did you put in that beer? A deep male voice growls somewhere above me, amused more than anything else, definitely slurring his words a bit. I'm fine, I mumble thickly, bloody knuckles braced on either side of my throbbing head, just tripped. I hear laughter then, too many voices layered together to count in this semi-conscious haze. Someone else barks out a crude joke about clumsy girls and their platform boots, inciting a round of raucous derision. Yeah, watch where the fuck you're going next time, princess. Dipshit drunk number one eyes me condescendingly before staggering away with his buddies, their laughter echoing off the alley walls long after I can't make out individual words anymore. I push myself up onto shaky knees and press my forehead against cool damp brick until the dizziness subsides somewhat. Get your shit together, I growl at myself savagely beneath clenched teeth. That girl is still out there somewhere, and if you don't find her soon, I cut the thought short with a shudder. It doesn't matter anymore why I can't just walk away. I stagger back onto my feet, one hand still pressed against the throbbing knot already rising hotly behind my ear. Probably going to have a lovely egg-shaped bruise blossoming there tomorrow morning, for all my co-workers to ooh and ah over sympathetically, while subtly speculating about what kind of depraved, kinky shit I must be into in my spare time. This is only a natural complement to the pitying looks from the office mommy types, who'll bring me soup casseroles and offer to help nurse me back to health. I inhale until my pulse slows somewhat from a murderous gallop, back down into a merely breakneck trot. Then I push myself away from the wall, using it as a brace while I test out my balance experimentally. 1 foot forward. Careful now. Good. Other one after it. That's it. Just keep moving nice and steady, like you've got all night to get where you're going. I take another deep breath, trying to clear out the coppery taste of blood still coating my tongue from biting it harder than I realized when I face-palmed. The scent that fills my nostrils this time around is milder though, damp and moldy with a faint underlying mustiness beneath it all. Like old books rotting in an unventilated attic for decades, untouched by human hands or sunlight, and underneath even that, something else. Something sickly sweet yet rancid at the same time. I gag involuntarily before I can stop myself and clap one hand over my nose and mouth, hard enough to leave livid fingerprints on pale skin when I finally pry it free again. Christ, what is that stench? It's coming from somewhere down at the very end of the alleyway. Thicker and more cloyingly unbearable with each halting step I force my leaden limbs to take, like wading chest deep through a fetid swamp, teeming with things it's better not to think about too hard while they wind slimy tentacles around your ankles. Instead, I concentrate on the girl, how she needs me. I'm almost there now, just a few more stumbling steps. Except, of course, it's never that simple. Because just as I'm finally close enough to see past the last crumbling brick wall and into the shadowy courtyard beyond, my heart already leaping with stupid, pathetic hope, despite every screaming instinct in me howling, "Run! Run! Run!" Too late. Something hard smashes full force between my shoulder blades, lifting me clean off my feet and slamming me face first into the grimy alley floor again. All of the air goes whoosh, right out of my lungs like someone punched a hole in an inflatable kiddie pool. Which I guess, technically, yeah, that's pretty accurate actually when you think about it. I try to roll onto my back and at least look my attacker in the face before he caves in my ribs with one steel-toed boot stomp for good measure, but strong hands already have an iron grip on either side of my throat. They haul me up effortlessly, like I'm made of nothing more substantial than tissue paper and dental floss. I kick and struggle wildly, toes scrabbling uselessly against slick concrete as he lifts me higher, until all I can see is his face, huge and distorted in front of mine. Eyes black pits of soulless voids in a death mask, pale white beneath the brim of that hat, with its long trailing transparent veil covering everything below the nose. Except this close up, even in the darkness. Shit. Shit. You have to be hallucinating. There is no fucking way that is real. Because instead of a normal human face beneath all those layers of black lace and satin ruffles, what stares back at me is something straight out of my most depraved nightmares, come hideously alive. There are eyes in the darkness, yes, but they're wrong somehow. Too large for any natural socket to contain, with pupils split vertically like a snake's instead of round black pinpricks, blown huge and wild with a feverishly insane glimmer beneath them. And the skin surrounding those milky orbs isn't pale anymore. No, it's grey-green and mottled with decomposition, flesh already starting to slough off in translucent sheets revealing underlying bone beneath a waxy film of fat oozing from rent seams along the jawline, where stitches have ripped free to expose glimpses of pink gristle underneath it all. And when those lips peel back on the other side of the veil, bearing rows of yellowed fangs in a feral grin. Christ, even rotting as bad as he clearly is, the stench that billows out over me nearly knocks my legs out from under me again, despite gravity still trying to pull me ass first into the pavement below. Except, apparently, gravity has nothing on whatever the actual fuck this thing is. Because I just keep rising higher and higher until all I can see are stars, wheeling dizzyingly above me in a sickeningly familiar vertigo rush. My skull hits brick with a sound like a ripe melon splattering wetly against pavement. And then, blessed mercifully, dark nothingness, enveloping everything else as the world grays out around edges of my vision. The last coherent thought, before it finally pulls me under entirely into sweet oblivion, is, "You really should have just left well enough alone, you moron. You're a hero to no one, especially not her." And then, even that fades away, like mist evaporating in a morning sunbeam. And I'm floating, drifting, falling forever down into cool, welcoming blackness that smells ever so faintly of lavender soap and talc powder. All that reminds me somehow inexplicably of my grandmother's attic, full of mothballs and yellowed photographs from another lifetime ago when the world still made a sort of sense. Now, though, there isn't even a there anymore to make heads or tails of anything, because I'm just nothingness, emptiness. And for one blissful, perfect, crystalline moment, I can almost believe that maybe this is how it's supposed to be. No more pain or fear or responsibility, except to simply let go and sink down into the waiting embrace of forever without any strings attached. And then there's a sharp prick like a bee sting on my neck just below my ear, where my pulse flutters erratically beneath thin skin. Suddenly, I'm yanking myself awake in a sweat-soaked bed, gasping, choking, coughing, as I struggle futilely against a weight that won't ease no matter how hard I fight, and beg. But it's too late now, even if some long-buried part of me knows. There's no coming back from that particular brink anymore. No white flag-waving surrender or tearful pleas for mercy when even the devil has already closed and locked your casket tight. Down, 6 feet under where even God can't hear your screams echoing forever into nothingness. And I realize with a distant sort of detachment, watching it all happen to some poor, unfortunate soul who could be anyone else entirely. Really, it doesn't matter anymore. Now does it? No. I press shaking hands over the gash oozing crimson down my forearm and watch helplessly through a red haze of agony as I feel him staring me down through smoky rings that dissipate into the stale air of the motel room, like that imagined curtain of lace finally pulled back. And as that familiar smile plays on his lips, I finally understand what it means when they say you reap exactly what you sow. I force my eyes to focus, blinking away tears from mascara-clumped lashes. Only with effort do I realize, with a rising tide of cold dread pooling icy in the pit of my belly, that something has very definitely changed. And it's not just that the world is suddenly sideways now instead of right side up. Although, admittedly, that's still pretty unsettling when you've been horizontal for who knows how long and your inner ear is screaming bloody murder at decibels that would shatter glass. This is all while the rest of you tries desperately to pretend the world is just peachy keen. We're fine over here, folks. Nothing to see. Move along now. No, that's not it. It's something else entirely. Something intangible, yet unmistakably wrong. Wrong in a way that settles into your bones like rotten teeth sinking deep into the marrow and refusing to ever let go. And when I finally tame my bleary, bloodshot eyes on my own reflection staring back at me from the cracked mirror across the room, I realize with a rising tide of bile burning in my throat that it's not just my face that looks different. That would almost be a relief compared to what stares out at me through those dead, milky orbs, rimmed red with burst blood vessels. Because now I can see the truth plain as day, even as some small, shriveled part of me still clings desperately to sanity. There it is, wanting nothing more than to rip that mirror clean off the wall and smash it into 1,000 pieces. so I never have to look at my face ever again. Ever. And then suddenly, I'm there. Crash. Crash. Glass rains down around my bare feet, embedding glittering shards into the carpet as I dance the drunken jig of a madwoman. Through the red haze of agony and bourbon-soaked fury, my fractured brain can barely process anything beyond the primal animal part still screaming. I can see it clearly enough in the reflective edges left clinging precariously to the splintered wood frame. The truth, staring back at me with eyes like bloodshot marbles, floating in a sea of mottled grey-green decay. It still somehow manages to shock the shit right out of me, if only because some tiny, pathetic part of my mind holds stupidly to that last threadbare shred of denial. No way could this actually be real. Even your own vomit has a sense of timing, because my guts finally give up the ghost right there on the carpet, splattering as chunky pink bile flecked liberally with blood and something else darkly viscous and stringy that I really don't want to. This is what rock bottom looks like, in every possible definition of that cliché-ridden turn of phrase. Yeah, but what Hollywood rarely tells you, though, is that there's still plenty of rock face left for you to bounce off of a few dozen more times before gravity finally does the rest of humankind a favor and puts you out of everyone else's misery. That's how I feel as I fall back onto the bed, like death has a sick sense of humor. Once again, I find myself gasping like a dying trout on dry land, choking on my own viscera as my demon's laughter echoes all around me, rich and low, and wickedly amused. It fills me in a way that comes across both obscene and sexy as sin. He chortles gleefully from somewhere in the dark. I try to flip him a middle finger up close and personal, but even motor functions have abandoned ship at this point. Instead, all I manage is a feeble flop of one hand limply across my chest before I just sort of slide off the edge of the mattress entirely. I hit the carpet with a squelch that sounds suspiciously like someone stepping barefoot into roadkill. My demon chuckles harder at the display, a deep, belly-shaking guffaw that rumbles through my entire being like an aftershock from some massive tectonic plate shift. Oh, sugar plums and cherries on top. There you go again, he mocks, making me want to believe in you. I almost accept his words before sanity, like a derailing train, makes me remember. Her. What he did to her. To us. And what we did to each other tonight and every other night since. I can't even begin to count anymore. All that fragile, threadbare gossamer of denial and delusion shatters into a glittering kaleidoscope around me. Forgetting is the lie that guards the way out. But maybe just this once. It seems even self-loathing has a breaking point, because suddenly I'm up and staggering toward the bathroom, arms flailing wildly, as if maybe sheer kinetic force alone will somehow teleport me into the shower faster than the speed of light. Crunch, crunch. Glass shards. Sting, sting, sting. Thump. I discover that tile floors don't give a shit how much poison you've got swimming through your veins, especially when gravity and Newton's laws of physics decide to gang up on your ass. I'm dimly aware of something warm trickling down my naked backside as I drag myself up onto bloody knees and over the impossibly high wall of the tub. I land hard against the cold surface and, without looking, raise my hand to find the water knob and give it a twist. An initial Arctic blast quickly gives way as scalding hot water needles into the raw, gaping lacerations across my body. Like a million tiny firebrands searing into chattel flesh. Shrieks of agony torn raw from my bleeding, shredded throat mingle obscenely with the sound of hammering water. And through it all, I hear a low, appreciative whistle that somehow manages to sound both filthy and almost sort of impressed at once, despite everything. I release a strangled combination laugh, hiccup, gag before I remember that. A, laughing hurts like a bitch under the circumstances. And B, speaking at all will just bring up more blood than is probably healthy for anyone who has to clean the room later. Although it's probably too late to be so considerate. As pain slowly turns to numbing relief, I let my head thunk dully against the wet side of the tub. And there I stay forever, with the water continuing to rain down around me. Its once harsh streams so strangely gentle, as if daring me to dream. Oh, now don't you go sleeping on me, darling. The voice returns, gravelly and amused despite the unmistakable edge of steel beneath it. Think about how much fun we were having. But I'm already too far gone to give a shit about anything besides the blessed nothingness, tugging at my eyelids like a lover's soft kiss. Instead, I just mumble something incomprehensible. That sounds vaguely like, fuck you.